Hi, I'm Madhavi Adimulam. I am the founder of Ananya Child Development Center.
Hi, my name is Isha Singh, and I'm a clinical psychologist heading the clinical services at Ananya Child Development Center, Hyderabad.
So today we are going to answer one of the most frequently asked questions, and that is, what are the top 10 qualities that one should have if they want to work in a pediatric rehab center or a child development center? So I have made a list of 10 qualities that one should have. So number one is the degree. The degree or the educational qualification that is needed to work in a center like this. If you want to have if you're considering making a profession out of this, then you definitely need to have something relevant to this profession. That is, either you need to be a psychologist, you need to have a master's in psychology, or you need to have at least a bachelor's in psychology if you want to study further in this field. And BPT, that is bachelor's in physiotherapy or master's in physiotherapy. The third qualification could be bachelor's in speech and language pathology or master's in speech and language pathology, or the fourth qualification could be bachelor's in occupation or master's in occupational therapy. Special education, B.Ed in special education, B.Ed in learning difficulties, B.Ed in global developmental delays, B.Ed in autism, or any of the B.Eds, or even diplomas. Some of these courses have diploma. It could be diploma in speech therapy, diploma in physiotherapy, and diploma in special education that some of the universities offer. These are possible. And if you're a nutritionist, if you're working with pediatric nutrition, yes. And also you could be a pediatrician yourself, like you want to work in the space of developmental pediatrics, then definitely this could be one place where you can work. Now it's one of the most need of the hour kind of professions, because there's so many children who are coming up with developmental delays with various reasons. Especially due to COVID, we are getting so many more cases of developmental delays. So one is degree. And we've had people calling us in our center where they say, ma'am, my kids have grown up and I'm interested in this, and I tell them, come and intern with us for a month or two and see if that is even a possibility for you. Do you have that kind of qualities in you where you can work in a child development center, and then go get yourself a qualification and come back and work with us. We do offer some courses like early intervention and certificate and diplomas in our own center. And then the second could be, some of these degrees need something called, Isha, did I miss any of the degrees?
No, you did not miss major of the degrees, but one thing that I want to just add here, that for any person working in a child development center also, there is a second part of diagnosing a child in childhood disabilities, right, that we mentioned in one of the videos early. I just want to recreate that fact that a clinical psychologist is the only person who can diagnose a child.
Yeah.
A clinical psychologist with an RCI degree. The course has to be registered with Rehabilitation Council of India.
Yeah.
That is the only person who can diagnose, not a counseling psychologist, not a counselor, not a simple psychologist.
Yeah.
They can work with the child,
yes.
But that is just a distinction that we have to maintain. Yes, please.
And also, Isha, there's one more thing that's important. Like, for instance, if somebody has done a B.Ed in autism, they can do an autism assessment.
Yes.
They can do an assessment. If it's a B.Ed, like learning difficulties, they can do an LD assessment. And they can probably, under the supervision of a clinical psychologist, they can do IQ assessment. They can do, but ultimately the diagnosis and the report is signed by a clinical psychologist. As per the rules that are laid by the government of India. So we just have to follow those rules. And there's something called Rehabilitation Council of India. That's number 2 is RCI recognition. Is your degree RCI recognized? If your degree is RCI recognized, then you need to have an RCI number for the degree. Okay. There could be many reasons, even though you might have an RCI degree, but you may not have a number. That's fine too. You can apply for it at any time and get it. There is a process. You can check the RCI website. You can go and apply for an RCI number. But there are some degrees which are RCI recognized, okay, like BSLP, MSLP, early intervention, and psychology. Some of the psychology.
MPhil in clinical psychology.
MPhil in clinical psychology. And then few are even then there are some new diplomas and degrees. We have been getting RCI recognized ones. So you can check the RCI website for more information. That's one more requirement. Third is, definitely I would want you to intern before you decide what you want, whether you want to be in a pediatric rehab setup, because this is a very different setup. When you just read books in your college, when you just Google search what is pediatric rehabilitation, what is child development center, you might get some information. But unless until you interact with children, unless until you spend at least a month or two, I would say 2 months, good 2 months, like 9 to 6, go work somewhere for free, even pay them if required to work there, to get the experience and to understand whether this is what you want to do for the rest of your life, because without understanding, I see a lot of people joining and then saying, ma'am, this is not what I thought it would be like. That means they have not done the internship and they have not really experienced it firsthand. They just randomly chose because they thought it's good or it's in demand. I know those are important too, but if you don't like something, don't do it. That's my request. Yeah.
A lot of people, from the Indian family background, I'll tell you my own experience. I'm thankful to my bhabi and to my elder sister who had children before us. I think they let us play with them, so we know how to a bit of handling the child. But a lot of students like me, when I did my MPhil first year and I was posted in LNJP Child Development Center, I had no clue. I had just the experience of handling a child at home, right? But it is very, very different when you are working in the center, handling the child, doing a developmental assessment.
And with other people's children. That's not your child.
And with other people's children. Exactly.
And that's not your cousin's child or your niece or your nephew. You can't take the liberty that you would take at home.
Completely.
Professional. Yeah.
So that's a very different. So you are very right, Madhvi. You have been very nice by telling them that they just need 2 months of internship. I think they need 6 months at least to work in a child, to get an experience, to be confident.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Completely. I did 1 year of internship. Only in a child development center before starting to work also. So that also did not make me confident, because every time the child is different. Every time the child is a different issue.
And children are not going to tell us anything. We are going to find out on our own, with our own, inquisitiveness or observations or what interactions with the child. We need to figure out things. And many a times parents also don't know what to tell us, because they don't know what to tell us, what to observe, what to look for. So it needs a lot of training, definitely. And internship is a very important step for us who want to choose this profession as a long-term thing for them. The fourth and the most important thing is patience. You are with children, kindness and patience. I would say kindness/patience is a fourth thing, most important thing. If you're not patient, if you're not going to be kind, if you're somebody who expects children to be well behaved and if you expect that everything will be perfect the way you want, the room in which your consultation happens can be like a war zone after a child leaves after the consultation, So if you're that's going to upset you, please don't get into this profession, or you should be ready to tidy up after every consultation, because if you have toys in your room, if there is a nook where you put all your manipulatives and toys for children for your assessments, they're going to pull out everything. They're going to experience, they're going to touch, feel, lick, mouth, everything. And then you are supposed to interact with the child. So it takes a lot of patience and kindness, because children with sensory difficulties come to your clinic all the time. Yeah.
In patients, I just remembered, Madhvi, you laugh at me on this, but the first week when I went into the center in LNJP, and I owe a lot to my supervisor there, Dr. Monica. And the child came for the developmental assessment, and the child was not cooperating. It was almost a 3+ child, and the child was not cooperating. So I told ma'am that, the child is not cooperating. What am I supposed to do with that? So of course, she asked that, why is the child not cooperating? So I said that it is the child's potty time. The mother said that she hasn't gone to the potty yet, so the child is not cooperating and feeling a little constipated. So I said that, what am I supposed to do? She just looked at me and said that, and wait, the child will do the potty, will feel fresh, and then come back and do the assessment. Simple. Yeah. So yes, patient. I waited for 1 hour for the child to be fresh, feel fresh and happy, right? Yeah. So after 1 hour, we started the developmental assessment. And the assessment was right then, because
Yes.
if I would have done it 1 hour before, the report would not have been right at all. The child would be cranky, not cooperating, and I would just say no, no, no in everything.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
So,
That's why we block 2 hour slots when a parent books here for an assessment. We tell the parent it takes about an hour, but to be on the safe side, we block 2 hours because we know it can spill over to 2 hours. Or first 1 hour could just be crankiness, crying and all that. And then after 1 hour only the child is settled. You know, or the mother will say he didn't eat anything. Then we say, please make sure the child is fed. Okay,
Yes.
feed your child. And then we will come back after half an hour. Then we will start the assessment, you know. So we factor in all these things, and lot of patience is definitely needed, you know. So that was a fourth one. Fifth one is passion to work in this area, in this profession of pediatric rehab. If you are not passionate, if you don't like children, and if you don't like children crying, if you don't like children cranky, if you don't like children making a mess of your room, please don't get into this profession at all. I've seen that happening many a times here. The toys are, the child is making a mess and they'll come and tell me, ma'am, the child is destroying everything in the room. You know, I tell them it's okay. We will replace them. Don't remove any toys, because we know that we want to observe everything that the child does in the room, you know. And sometimes they take their phone and throw the, you know, the consultant's phone is flying in the room, and they're chewing on the pen, the, you know,
or the dupatta,
or the
or the kurta.
they're pulling, sometimes they pull our hair, our chashma, you know. That's very normal for us. I have had incidents where they spat, you know, they had sensory issues, they spat on me, they bit me, because I'm just sitting there, my hand was, I was not aware that the child had the sensory issues, and he would bite, and he just came and bit me. If you don't really have the passion to do anything to help children, this is not the profession for you. Don't choose. So one of the most important qualities that you need to have passion to work in this profession. What do you say, Isha?
Oh, completely. It takes a hell lot of energy after the end of the day. I mean, you're drained. So that's the only thing actually that keeps you coming the next day. Passion for working with children, helping them. That is a huge driving force.
Exactly. Every morning, the mornings I don't want to get up and come to Ananya. I say, no, I want to be in that building. I want to be there in the middle of all the action. You know, this is COVID. The Hyderabad city is under lockdown. And I'm this crazy woman who's driving on these roads, and the police are stopping me. Why are you on the roads? I say, no, I have my clinic. I need to go every single day. And, you know, Lakshmi, who tells me, don't worry, I'm there. It's like, no, I want to be here. I want to be in this building. My husband thinks I'm a nutcase. My children think I'm one crazy woman. But I want to be here. I want to be with children every single day. I want to know what's happening. I want to know what activities are done. So that is what drives me to work, you know. And all our therapists, I'm really grateful to them. You can tell that, ma'am, we want to come. If the center is open, we will come. You know, they're driving their bikes, they're coming in this 40 degrees heat to serve the children. So that's the kind of passion I'm talking about, you know, not just studying the course, but actually delivering it on the front line. That's the kind of passion that we're looking for. And the next one is compassion and empathy. You know, when a parent comes, especially when there is a child with a, you know, that was a sixth quality. Okay. Compassion and empathy. When a parent comes with a special needs child, they are very, what do you say? They are very sad, and they're very worried about their child. They don't know what's happening. They don't know why their child is behaving like this. Other people's children are not like that. And they might be doing some inappropriate things in your clinic. And I mean, I don't want to talk about it, but still they might have done they might do things that can be upsetting for us to watch, you know. But I'm not supposed to show any irritation, any disappointment, any anger, any judgment on my face. I'm just supposed to show my compassion. I'm supposed to show my empathy to them, because imagine if I have to deal with the child for 45 minutes or half an hour in my clinic, and if that's going to be hard for me, that poor mother, that the mother and the father are dealing with the child for the rest of the 23 hours every single day for the rest of their lives. And if I can't even put up with that for 45 minutes to 1 hour, I don't even think I have any right to even do this job. So compassion and empathy, I think, come on top. I would, if you don't have degree, if you don't have RCI number, if you don't have internship, if you don't have patience, if you don't have anything, I would put compassion on top. Then patience, then the rest will follow. You know, if there was no legal requirement for me to have qualified professionals, I would just look for these qualities, because I know my helpers in the building, you know, who really look after children so well. I mean, they're not trained, they're not qualified, they don't have fancy degrees, they don't have RCI numbers, they clean, they help children, they feed them, they change their diapers, they, you know, they clean them after they do potty. Oh my God, I have tremendous respect for these women who are keeping this building spick and span, and keeping the children spick and span, feeding them, tidying up after the mess that they create, you know, after the sessions. It's amazing. I think that's one degree. I've sacked many a therapists who came to my center without compassion, who ridiculed children, who laughed at them, who did not understand what they are going through, who just were ignorant of what's going on in their lives. I don't want to associate with them. I'm done. I'm done. You might have the best degree from Stanford, Harvard. I don't care. I want you to have respect and compassion for children and their families who come here. That's not there. I'm not interested in talking to you anymore. You know, that's how much I put compassion and empathy in my list. What do you say, Isha?
No, you're completely right. And from a very clinical point of view, Madhvi, I mean, if it is not a physically harming situation or a behavior, each behavior that we see in the consultation room or observing tells something about the child, makes us understand the child better.
Yes.
So every behavior, however inappropriate or appropriate may be, is an information for me.
Yes.
It's going to help me, help the child, help the parents.
Yes.
So no behavior, if it is not self-harming or other physically harming, is inappropriate for me at all.
Even if it is self-harming, that's also information for me. If the child is self-harming, that's also information. If the child is harming the parents, that's also information. But I'm not going to say, oh, we don't deal with this case. This is a very difficult
case. Not at all. And ridicule is not possible only.
The child is not doing it on purpose.
Exactly.
The parents are have not taught that behavior to children.
Exactly.
Many a times, like, what kind of parenting is this? I said, no, excuse me, this is not taught by any mother. You know, these inappropriate behaviors are not taught by anybody.
Nobody.
The child has some developmental issue, developmental disorder, neurological disorder, some psychological condition because of which the child is behaving like that. I don't think any mother would teach that behavior to any child. You know, that's absolutely inappropriate. So that's that. The seventh one is be prepared to work long hours. Imagine if the assistant starts at 5, even though my working hours may be 9 to 6, there are days I left at 7:30. Because if I couldn't get up, if it's a long assessment, we can't end it in the middle. There are days on which I waited till 7:30, the assessment got over and I left. And the parents sometimes don't come to pick up their child on time. So I waited long hours. Like, mother is calling me and saying, I'm stuck in traffic. It takes 1 hour. I will never ever leave the child with the helpers or the security and go. I will wait. My team, one of the team members will wait with me, because all children don't know me. They're not comfortable with me. I don't work with them on a day-to-day basis. I might know them, but they don't know me. So I'll make sure that one person who knows the child stays with the child. I stay with the child. One helper stays with the child, and the security person stays. And we four are waiting for the mother to come, no matter how long it takes. We can't leave the child with one person and this just disappear. If you don't want to work hard, if you don't want to work long hours, sorry, this is not the profession for you. Go look for something else. This is not what we do here. We need a lot of time from you. Yeah, my employment letter will tell 9 to 6, Monday to Saturday. But there are days I work from 9 to 9 also. But that's unpredictable. So those hours are required from us. But I mean, I know, Isha, don't you? Didn't you work?
Oh, yeah.
9 to 12 we worked. We ordered dinners here. We ordered Swiggy. We ordered dinners here. We had like, some days we probably could have ordered breakfast also next day. So long hours, definitely.
Yeah, and we pack. I mean, I generally keep a lot of knickknacks there because you get hungry.
Yes. Yeah. Right now I have something to munch here. Okay. And
Yes.
then because I'm always prepared to stay late because I don't know which day I'm going to stay late.
Yeah, that is very unpredictable, and you're
Yeah.
rightly saying that.
I have a
And
pair of
it's not
clothes
like
in
they're
case if
doing
I
it.
don't go home. You know that, right?
Yes.
I have a pair of clothes, my night clothes and work clothes I always keep because in case if I plan not to go home, I'm going to sleep on the sofa. Wake up in the morning, shower. I have a shower here in the room. I shower and then I continue my next day here. That's why, I'm one of those nutcases. Okay. And the eighth one is fun and playful. If you don't like having fun with children, if you treat them like subjects or your patients in double quotes, sorry, this is not an adult psychiatric setup where you are treating inpatients. These are little children, they're 2-year-olds, they're 3-year-olds. You need to play with them. You need to have fun with them when you're working with them. If you don't have fun with them, they're not going to have fun. The first thing I need to see is you having fun with them, because they need to look forward to coming to Ananya. When a mother tells me that, ma'am, on Sunday also he's asking me to bring him to Ananya. That's like a compliment. That's the best compliment I get from a mother. When my child looks that the car is turning towards Ananya Road, my child is jumping with joy. That's the best compliment that I get. That means we are doing something right. That's why children want to come here. They do. And sometimes when they go home, they cry. They don't want to go home. They want to stay here. So I have to literally convince them, you're coming back tomorrow. For now you go. Or I give them a toy. So you could take it home and bring it back tomorrow. So that's one of the best compliments that we get. That's because we are having fun. We are playing with them. And all the assessments also that we do. I mean, we can't do much if it's done online. But if it's done here in person, then playway method. We don't want to just do like a very serious question answer type of assessment with children. Do you want to add anything, Isha?
I mean, again, I'll add it a little more in a clinical perspective.
Yeah.
You're completely right, what you said right now. But again, as a clinician, it's important that the child is comfortable and is having fun.
Yeah.
Because the child would not cooperate then.
Yeah.
If the child is not comfortable, is not having fun, whole assessment is going to be affected.
Absolutely.
So, yes, from both angles, the therapy, when the child, after the assessment, the therapy happens, the child needs to have fun and be cooperative. So the results would also be coming faster, maybe sometimes. The results would be more permanent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that ways.
Yeah, I think with a 2-year-old, with a 3-year-old developmental assessment, if you don't have toys, if you don't have space for the child to play in the room for assessment, I don't think that can be done.
There's no point. There's just no point of the assessment.
And if your personality itself is not a very fun-loving, happy-go-lucky, playful person, if you are a very grumpy, very sad person, and if you are that kind of a person, then don't get into a profession which demands all these qualities from you. You can look for a profession that matches your personality, your demeanor. That's what I would say.
Right. And one thing here, I just want to add a little bit, again, from my experience at Ananya also, the center is spick and span. So I never had a problem in sitting on the floor. But a lot of time for assessment, you have to sit on the floor and interact with the child. Yeah. Because the child is on the floor, for God's sake.
Yes.
So a definition of fun is, rolling on the floor or sitting on the floor or drawing on the floor. So you have to match that. You have to have fun like the child likes having fun. Yeah. Not your definition of fun.
No.
Yes.
Your definition of fun could be different. We need to see the child enjoying your whole session, not you enjoying the session. Yes. But usually if the enjoyment is coming from inside and if you're having fun with the child, it's contagious. Yes. Children pick it up. Children are very good at picking up who is fake and who is real. And if you are real and if you're having real fun, they will pick it up. There's no two ways about it, So, and the next one, next quality that we look for is somebody who is extremely observant, observant, who likes to observe, who looks at those small things that usually people miss. If you are that kind of a person, definitely you are the right match for this profession, because I think the whole assessment, the whole therapy that we do with children is based on observation, because children are not going to give you feedback like adults. They are not going to tell this is good, this is working, do more of this, do less of this. You are supposed to figure out all that on your own. What do you say?
Completely agree. Observation is completely a must for the child. I mean, you have to observe the child.
I think Isha is joining back. Yeah. Yeah, Isha. Yes, observation. We were talking about observation, Isha.
Yes, sorry. Yes, observation. Observation is very, very important. A lot of times, because they are children, they're not able to speak up what they are feeling sometimes, that
Yeah.
they are uncomfortable a little bit
Yes.
sometimes. So
Yes.
that needs to be observed from your side. I mean,
Yes.
I've worked with adults. They are very verbal about if they are uncomfortable about something that I said, maybe, or I'm asking them to do something, maybe in a
Yeah.
behavior therapy.
Yeah.
Right. But with children, they would either resist by maybe crying or by just doing it without the fun or without just cooperating. They just do it mechanically sometimes
Yeah.
with the expression on the face, the rigidness in the body. You would know all these things,
You
and
know.
you have to
Yeah.
observe,
Yeah.
and you have to address, not observe and just let it go. You
Yeah.
have to observe
Observe,
and then
address,
address.
modify, adapt
Yes.
to the
Yes.
play or to the
Yes.
activity, or that change the activity, change the room. I'll tell you what happened a few days ago. I had a consultation. I had one mother, father, two children, two girls coming for a consultation. The 7-year-old had ASD. They came to know about me and they just want to come and meet me. I said, just come. And then they came. And in the room, consultation room, during the COVID, we removed all the furniture. We just kept one table and 4 chairs in the room. So these people were already 4 people. And the little girl was playing around in the room. Mother, father, and the elder daughter were sitting on the 3 chairs. And the 4th chair, I went and sat on the 4th chair. The girl kept pushing me away from the chair. She didn't want me to sit there. So I didn't understand. She said, no, no sitting, no sitting, no sitting. She was speaking a few words. Then what I did is, okay, I told the father, okay, you come here, I'll go and sit there. Then we changed. Still she kept pushing me and said, no, don't do. Then I looked at the chairs. The 4 chairs that they were sitting on, they were black chairs. And then no other chair in the room was black. There was another chair on the side, which was green or something. So I just pulled the green chair and sat. The child allowed me to sit. The 4th chair was her chair. She wanted to sit there. She was moving around, but she said, these 4 chairs are alike and only us are sitting. All 4 of us are sitting on. So the mother was like, how did you know that she wanted I said, she has autism, you said. And I live with a person with autism. Many a times my son doesn't say things. I have to watch and learn, So I saw that, oh, maybe these 4 black chairs she wants for the family. And then that's why she's pushing me away. And then after that, I continued with my conversation. No problem at all. She was just given some paper to scribble on and she was happy scribbling. Okay. So I was like thinking, imagine if I just did not get up from the chair. It would have made her so upset. It was a small thing, but she was very particular that I shouldn't sit on the black chair. There's no harm in respecting her decision of not sitting there. It doesn't really make me a less person or more or whatever. It's okay. She's very happy. She wants to keep that chair for herself, So these kind of small observations matter when it comes to children, especially children who have developmental delay, speech delay, communication issues, autism. These are very important for me. I would like to look at that as a quality, Yeah. And that was the 9th one. And the last one, the 10th one, being innovative and creative. Coming up with some innovative solutions that you would never have thought about in a regular school or regular setup, So I always look at how do I make the child engaged? How do I make the child interested in coming to Ananya? You might not have, we've had a child who liked makeup, like a girl, a 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome. She used to like our earrings, our, hair bands, bindis, small bracelets and whatever. So what we did is we went to the nearby shop and we picked up those small things, bindis and rubber bands and nail polish and few things. So that was her motivation. That was her, reinforcement for her to come to Ananya every day. So she could, when last 10 minutes, we would allow her to do whatever she wanted. Like she wanted to try some hair bands on, or she would say, can I have your hairband? And I would give my hairband to her, like that. Because children, their motivation is completely different. They don't care about how much money their parents are paying to get therapy from us. And they don't care if they have Down syndrome or autism. All they want is, am I having fun? Does this person like me? Do I enjoy working with this person? That's all they care about. And do they understand what I want? That's also important. Like my son, when he comes to Ananya, I ask him, who do you want to work with today? And there are 3 or 4 therapists, and he would say, I would want to work with this person, So we work with that person. There's no harm in asking them, giving them a choice, being creative, being innovative. You don't need to be a strict disciplinarian when it comes to children. You have to be creative. You have to be innovative. Like today, we've asked one mother, today they've sent a keyboard with the child. I believe the child plays keyboard. And then we wanted some fun activity in between activities. And he loves it when we clap after he plays. He knows a few keyboard songs, So at lunchtime, the mother came and all of us sat, and he was playing keyboard. And after every song he played, we all clapped and he loved it, And I said, okay, you could take the keyboard with you, keep it with you. But we made a visual schedule. We said activity, keyboard, activity, keyboard, activity, keyboard. So he's looking forward to the sessions. We need to come up with these kind of innovative and creative methods of engaging children. Without that, if you are not going to innovate, if you're going to have a rigid process, then probably not going to work, for us.
That's very true, Madhuri. For example, in developmental assessment, when you're going through a checklist or when doing an assessment, a lot of time that activity which is written is...
Your screen is frozen.
Also, sometimes you have to be innovative about it.
Yes.
You have to ask if the child, Yeah. So you have to ask if the child is doing something parallel to it or not. You can't be rigid. The child is doing this or no. It's not possible.
It's not.
Actually.
We always have in our plan, we always tell therapists to make a list of activities that you're going to do, and also make a list of backup activities that you're going to do if this is not going to work. Because I don't want you to go to the session and then not have any backup plan with you. I think there's some video issues, Isha, that you're facing. Your screen is freezing every now and then. Okay, doesn't matter.
Okay.
So, yeah, the last one was the innovative and creative part of it. So we kind of, I think, covered all the 10 points. Let me just revise. Number 1 is your degree or qualification. Second, if you have a degree that is RCA recognized, then you need to have an RCA number. And then you should have done an internship in a pediatric rehab center before you choose a profession like this. Patience, you need to have loads and loads of patience and kindness. 5th is passion to work. 6th is compassion and empathy towards families that come to us for help and children. And 7th is be prepared to work long hours. 8th is enjoying being fun and playful with children. And 9th is being extremely observant and looking at what's happening around the child and around you in the session. And 10th and last, probably not the last, but 10th is being innovative and creative with your children, whether they're coming for assessment, consultation, or for therapy. Being innovative is absolutely important for us. So I think if you have covered these 10 aspects, if you think that you have these 10 aspects, then absolutely you are welcome to join a pediatric rehab center. You can call us. We are happy to hire you.
Yes. See you around soon then.
Thank you so much for watching the video. Do subscribe to our channel and also make sure that you press on that bell icon so that you keep getting reminders as and when we upload new videos. Thank you.
Thank you.